We're all familiar with the shape of a pyramid. We don't see many buildings built that way, but we've seen pictures of ancient Egypt, those buildings from Egypt. And yet, society just seems to naturally arrange itself into that sort of structure. Right? Only a few people rise to a level of prominence and influence, wealth. Only a few are considered authoritative, but the rest fall somewhere further down the pyramid, right? And most of us down toward the bottom. This fourth argument for the resurrection turns the whole pyramid upside down. It shows us something vitally important about the Lord and how he works. He chooses people at the bottom to be the first witnesses of the empty tomb. Right? Again, like I mentioned earlier, it wasn't the high priest, it wasn't the Roman governor, it wasn't someone wealthy or influential. It wasn't even someone who was male, which was a really big deal in that culture. Luke 24, 9 through 10. It was the women, right? And it says, in returning from the tomb, they told all these things to the 11 and to the rest. Now it was Mary Magdalene and Joanna and Mary, the mother of James, and the other women with them, who told these things to the apostles. Now again, these women were part of Jesus' ministry early on. Luke mentions them back in chapter 8 of his gospel. And he describes them as women who had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities. Mary, called Magdalene, from whom 7 demons had gone out, and Joanna, the wife of Chuza, Herod's household manager, and Susanna, and many others who provided for them, for the disciples, out of their means. A lot of people probably question the propriety of a group of women like this accompanying Jesus and the apostles in ministry. And you think particularly, what would people say about a woman like Mary Magdalene who had been under the influence of demons? Even today, people still try to draw out conspiracies about Mary having some relationship with Jesus out of that. And yet, God chooses that group of faithful, humble women to see the empty tomb, to hear the angelic announcement. And John tells us in his gospel that Mary Magdalene is the first person to see the risen Christ. This selection of these women as witnesses, I think it just points to a powerful truth about the resurrection, that no matter what our past sins may be or where we stand in this society's pyramid, the resurrection enables every believer to draw near to God on equal footing. There's no hierarchy before the cross. In Ephesians chapter 2, verses 4 through 6, Paul explains, "But God, being rich in mercy, because of the great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. By grace you've been saved, and raised us up with him and seated us with him in the heavenly places in Christ Jesus." So when you understand that idea of grace and what it means that we all relate to God the same way, it doesn't make sense when churches function as a hierarchy. Each believer is personally connected with Jesus and indwelt by the Spirit. There are still church leaders. The New Testament establishes elders and deacons to help guide the church, but they're supposed to serve in humility, relating to others as a family of brothers and sisters in Christ. And so it's not by chance that this group of women become the first witnesses of the empty tomb. God does it very intentionally. It's establishing this principle of equality, of respect, that was already part of the ministry of Jesus. So is that how we relate to one